40 for Rateable Crest Titans.
For the second round of the AWDC Britpart Safari Championship, we are heading south, about as far south as you can go, in fact, to Bovington for the Clouds Hill round of the championship. And despite what seems like months of rain in the UK, the crews were met with surprisingly dry and dusty conditions. Over the first of the runs, it will be Paul Rowlands taking the early lead, getting used to the new car now and pushing it harder. So hard, in fact, that he would bend some of the suspension on run 2, needing a bit of work doing in service before he goes back out on that course. Second place at this stage was Jason Rowlands. 16 seconds the difference after run 2. There was no way he'd be settling for that though over the remaining runs of the day. A big push was on, but it wasn't a bad start given he hadn't actually driven the car off-road yet. Aaron Birch and Sam Harnell had a car on loan from Guy Smith at GSR this weekend while Aaron's car was being built. It was a great start. They end the morning's first 2 runs, 3rd place on the overall leaderboard. And looking at the results, it was safe to say that the buggies were in their element on this course. The suspension on them soaking up the rough, dry, dusty conditions. And for Douglas Devonall-Batt, it will be 4th place in the class and on the overall results as well. Just 11 seconds off the podium positions. Rob Morris, meanwhile, will be the first of the non-buggy crews on the timesheets for now, leading the way in Class 8 from 5th overall. The times coming down as the morning went on as well. We're back to the 5A class for 6th overall, but it was 5th in the class for now for Paddy Barker. The times starting to spread out a little as far as the overall times were concerned at this stage as we get to this point on the leaderboard, but still a chance to gain some positions with 6 more runs to go, and the jeopardy, which we always know is waiting around the corner at AWDC rounds. Philippa and James Tennant would make a good start. Philippa starting the driving this time out, and the pair lying in 7th overall thanks to her efforts. Loving this weekend's course at Bovington, this pair. Those of you with a good memory will remember that Steve Smith retired on this round last season, so there'd be a score to settle, or at least a demon to exercise. For now, it will be 8th place overall, leading the way in Class 9. A better start, that was for sure. Jordan Shirley will be the fastest of the B-Maxwell cars over the first run, but frustratingly, it wouldn't last, breaking a half shaft on run 2, and without a spare, run 3 was done in 2-wheel drive, resulting in a broken prop shaft. A disappointing early end after going so well out of the blocks. At least he did manage to get out on 3 runs because he had 3 new co-drivers who had never been in a comp safari car before, who all wanted a run. Stuart Cornew, Jack Westhead and Kev Stokes all getting their first experience of the sport from behind the windscreen for at least 1 run. And rounding out the top 10 for now will be Hemi Smith, only 7 seconds back on the overall timesheets and of course set to inherit at least 1 position going into the next runs of the event. So that's the top 10 overall then. But what about those positions outside of that top 10 leaderboard? Well, it will be 11th overall for Bruce Mallet and Adrian Beer. They'd made some changes to the suspension since the first round, and it looked like they were working well. They'd blow the manifold though on run 2, causing a bit of excess noise, but they get it all sorted and back out for the next runs of the day. Adam Warts and Peyton Lewis, meanwhile, will be having an issue with the car getting stuck in gear. Not ideal, of course, but they were still going, and that's the main thing. The time's not bad either. 12th overall and leading the way in Class 4. I'm not sure what gear they had, but it must have been a good one. Leading the way in Class 7, meanwhile, at this stage, will be Brian Dyke. He was the only one in the class, but the overall times were good as well. 13th position for now. Kieran Jones and Eloise Donovan, though, will be having a bit of an engine issue on the opening runs of the day. A misfire and the car down on power. It will be traced back to a loose ECU plug, so the afternoon should go much better for the pair. A very inexpensive repair as well. If not one, they'll be kicking themselves about. They lie second in Class 4 at this stage, though. Not bad for a bit of damage limitation. It would be a great start to the event for Leighton and Luke Dawes. No issues to report. All they needed to do was put fuel in the car. How often can you say that? 15th overall, second in Class 6. For Owen Timms, it will be second in Class 8, lying in 16th place overall as well at this stage in the event. Third place in Class 4 after run 2 will belong to Ross Williams, around 2 minutes back from the crew up ahead in the class. Ending the morning, though, with 17th on the overall leaderboard. And Vanessa Rook will be out for the first time in this car. And it was a big car to be driving around this course. It was going well, though. Third in Class 8 for now, 18th overall. The gaps in Class 9 were a little bigger. Sam Burley lying third in the class after 2 runs, but the overall times on the leaderboard much closer. Just 8 seconds to Rook up ahead. It would be around 30 seconds back to Alex Russell, lying in 20th place overall, now third in Class 6. And Daniel and Alan Wilcox would have a good first run of the day, opening out a good lead in Class 1. That partly down to problems for the other class runners, so they couldn't quite gauge where that pace was just yet. But a class lead is a class lead. There were 2 crews to battle it out in Class 2 this weekend, and taking a small advantage in the lead of the class at the moment. Johan Leroux and Daniel Grimes, 22nd on the overall timesheets as well. Closest behind them on the results were Chris and David Bowler. They'd have a bit of an issue with the car overheating before the start of the event, but thankfully they'd get it going and suffer no real issues actually once they got going. Second in Class 2 as well now, just 10 seconds the difference. Matthew Hall, meanwhile, had started the day well. Third fastest on the opening run of the morning, but a frustrating mishap on run 2 would see him roll the car, losing a handful of time in the process. Down in 25th overall for now. A lot of time to try and catch up and a bit of repairing to do in the service area. Second in Class 1 for now will be Thomas Parker. Unfortunately, that would only be the case for the first few runs, though, retiring a little later into the morning. And this weekend will be the first time out in the car for Michael Tilney and Josh Cameron. They were having a bit of an issue with the clutch slipping on run 2, causing them to get a maximum time. But aside from that, the times were good. And rounding out the results at this stage, Martin Clark, third place in Class 1 for now. But just like Parker up ahead of him, this would be as far as we see him go, retiring on run 3. We'd also lose Brian Birch. He wouldn't make it through a full run here at Bovington without having to call it a day. Disappointing after that strong finish last time out at the first round of the championship. Our competitors here in the AWDC have got their first runs under their belts here at round 2. The leaderboard shaping up a little like this. Over the middle part of the day, we'd see some change at the top. Jason Rowlands managing to overhaul Dad to take the lead of the event, but it was still close. Only 8 seconds the advantage still. So that, of course, puts Paul Rowlands at the moment down in second place. But was he going to settle for that? Was he heck? A push would now be on for the final few runs. There was only one speed now, and that's called flat out. Aaron Birch and Sam Harnell were struggling a little on some of the faster sections of the course. The car can only do 85 miles per hour top speed. So it was a case of trying their best to get the lines right and carry that speed as much as possible. They continue to lie in third place for now. No change either for Douglas Devonall Batt, 4th overall and in the class as well. But the gap to the podium positions was getting a little bigger. Rob Morris, though, would continue to hold the lead in Class 8, the fastest of our non-buggy cars still, and going well to hold on to that position. Philippa and James Tennant were another crew going well, moving up a position on the overall timesheets as well. Philippa still doing all of the driving as the times were looking good. A clutch issue on run 5 might have changed that around so close to the end of the run. It wasn't an issue though. And Steve Smith was another to be gaining some time and moving up the leaderboard, now into 7th overall. It was still going well. The Class 9 lead was looking more and more secure as the day went on. Some of the movement means that Paddy Barker would drop down the overall standings a little, now into 8th place from 6th. But the important part, of course, is that he was still inside the top 10 and still pushing hard. A big push through the last few runs, surely now on the cards. Hemi Smith was moving the right way on the order as well, now into 9th place. Only one position gain, but that was still a move in the right direction as we head towards the end of the event. And rounding out the top 10 now will be Bruce Mallet and Adrian Beer. A position gained for this pair as well, although catching cars was becoming a bit of an issue. More attrition in this mid part of the day. We lose Michael Tilney and Josh Cameron. They hadn't had a straightforward event, that was for sure, and now they'd bent a wishbone and didn't have a spare, so it was game over. Before we take a look at the final overall and class results after the final runs of the day here at Bovington, here's a reminder of how the leaderboard is looking. On to the final runs of the day and the final overall results then. Rounding out our finishers will be Sam Burley, 22nd place overall, 4th in Class 9. Daniel and Alan Wilcox will be the sole Class 1 survivors. Battling hard, they would have rather won it on the stages, of course, and not by default. But of course, they still had to get to the finish. And they damage a shock in the process, replacing it and managing to keep that good result in 21st. 20th overall was enough for Alex Russell to take 2nd place in Class 6. No change to the class result, but he does drop down the overall leaderboard a little. And James Withers and Andy Kent would actually go the other way. They end the event 3rd in Class 9, 19th overall. Adam Wart and Peyton Lewis, meanwhile, would drop back on the leaderboard, overall and in the class. They were now 3rd in the class, down in 18th overall. This would be due to the engine overheating on the final run of the day, hoping with a wing and a prayer to have a new engine in place before round 3. Chris and David Bowler had had a difficult weekend. They were sharing the driving, and the times have been pretty close between the pair of them, just a couple of seconds off each other. But it will be Chris taking the fastest time in that little family battle here at round 2 and leading the way in Class 3. Paddy Barker had had a difficult afternoon too. A maximum on run 6 would see him slip right down the order, ending the event 16th overall, 5th in Class 5A. There's no change though for Vanessa Rook, still holding on to 2nd in Class 8 by the finish, but there'd be a little movement on the results overall, into 15th. Things had been going exceedingly well for Rob Morris, chasing down the top of the results. But a maximum on the 6th run of the day would see him dropping down the order and into 14th overall. Frustrating doesn't even start to cover it. Ross Williams, though, gains a position in Class 4, now taking up 2nd place in the class as he finishes with a 13th place overall position. And with just himself in Class 7, it will be victory there for Brian Dyke. But getting through was, of course, a battle in itself, and he had half an eye on those overall times, ending the event with, of course, that class win, but an impressive 12th overall. It had been a strong event for Leighton and Luke Dodds. No real problems to report. They were another pairing in a battle to see who was fastest in that car as they shared the driving. And on this occasion, it was Luke taking those honours, as well as the pair sharing their times to take the Class 6 victory. On to the top 10 now, and it will be Kieran Jones and Eloise Donovan taking that 10th spot. They fixed the morning's ECU issue, but there was more frustration to come. A suspension problem will be holding them back a little, having to make sure they got to the end without damaging the car any further. And it was a great comeback drive for Matthew Hall. Having dropped right down the order through the morning, he managed to climb all the way back into 9th. Not the finish he came here looking for. After that start, though, it was damage limitation, and that result was not to be sniffed at. The car had gone well all day for Bruce Mallet and Adrian Beer, and they were happy with how things had progressed inside it. That means they could push for a higher position on the 3rd round in a few weeks' time, and they'd be looking to do just that. For now, though, 8th overall, 2nd in Class 9, was seeing them build their championship campaign nicely. Hemi Smith was another to stay out of trouble today, getting to the end of the event with a 7th place finish. The car going well, she also takes 3rd place in Class 5A as well. And Steve Smith puts that non-finish at this round last year behind him well and truly, getting to the finish of the event, but not only with the Class 9 victory, a fantastic 6th place overall as well. Things had also gone well for Philippa and James Tennant. They enjoy a good, clean run to take 5th overall. More importantly, they get to the finish. A chance to show what they and the car can do when things are going to plan. They take 2nd in Class 5A as far as the points battle is concerned as well. Douglas Devenall Batt had kept things neat and tidy to get to the end of the event, exactly where he'd been for most of the day, taking 4th place overall. The class victory in 5A as well was his. Things had also gone to plan for Aaron Birch and Sam Harnell. They get to the finish of the event with that podium position that they'd held all day. A strong finish. They would catch a few cars out there on the course though, but luckily at this venue, plenty of places to get past and plenty of promise as well with that pace for future rounds and a big championship battle hopefully on the cards. It will be all change once again, though, at the top of our leaderboard. Jason Rowlands unable to hold on to that lead, having to settle for 2nd in the family battle and on our overall leaderboard. A great result, though. Some amazing pace out there on the course. And that, of course, means that it's Paul Rowlands taking victory and the lion's share of the mantelpiece at home this weekend. A great end to a battle that had been switching around course by course, run by run. Family honours to Paul this weekend. So at the end of a tough and dusty 2nd round, here's how the results ended up.